Distance lessens trauma. Whether it's physical distance from a traumatic event, distance in time that the event happened a long time ago, or even the artificial emotional distance that we create in order to make traumatic events feel less real, distance mitigates trauma. I have an event that happened at High Desert that haunts me, that I've had nightmares about. And it may be because I had no distance from it. It happened right in front of me. There was a gentleman named Ramos. He was a Norteño, and he had decided he was going to leave the gang. I believe that he was afraid he was going to pick up a life sentence if he continued engaging in criminality while in prison. He made the mistake of telling his good friend, Savage, that he intended to leave the gang. Savage was also a Norteño. Savage went to the shot caller and informed him of Ramos's plan. Shot callers cannot allow inmates to leave the gangs. Once you leave a gang, you are isolated from all the other inmates in a debriefing area. And the cops will lean on you. They'll try to get you to inform upon the other members of the gang. And most inmates do. So the shot callers have to draw a hard line in the sand about leaving. The shot caller authorized a hit, a removal on Ramos, and he tasked Savage and one other inmate I didn't know, we'll call him John, to take Ramos out. Ramos's plan had been to wait until all of the inmates were filing into the buildings after yard, so they would just be him and a couple of other people out on the yard, and then he would casually turn around and start walking towards the cops with the idea that nobody would notice until it was too late. However, Savage was aware of this plan, and so he and John waited until just a couple of minutes before yard recall to rush Ramos with pieces. As it turned out, I was walking home to my building from work whenever this happened, and so I saw the two guys rushing Ramos right in front of me. Ramos saw them too. He did the right thing. Whenever you are assaulted by two men intent upon taking your life from you, killing you with knives, first, you have to keep your feet. You cannot allow them to knock you to the ground, because once you're on the ground, you'll lack the leverage to protect your vital organs. They'll be able to pin you and execute you. Second, you have to accept that your arms are going to be hurt. They're going to be ruined. You are going to be stabbed and cut in your arms. You'll have muscle hanging out, perhaps cut to the bone. This is because you keep your hands in front of you and block the knives with your arms. This is because you are very unlikely to die from a cut or a slash to your arms, as opposed to if you have your carotid artery severed, your brachial, your heart, your lungs. These things will kill you immediately. You're likely to be on an operating table within just 10 or 15 minutes of being attacked on a prison yard if you are seriously injured. They have a helicopter that will take you to an operating table. The doctors are ready to go. It's incredible. So all you have to do is make sure that no vital organs are punctured that would kill you within that 10, 15, 20-minute time period. And that's what Ramos was attempting to do. Immediately the cops started yelling, as they do, "Get down! Get down!" And I had enough time to take 2 large steps and then sit down. If I had moved any further than that, they might have mentally noted that I took a long time to get down and assumed that I was a combatant. This put me about 15 feet away from the assault rather than 10. Ramos kept his feet for as long as he could, but after about 30, maybe 45 seconds of being stabbed in the arms and being assaulted by 2 strong, violent men, he was knocked to the ground. Savage pinned him. He took his knee and put it against Ramos's chest, and John started stabbing him brutally, 10, maybe even 15 times. This persisted for about 30 seconds, and Ramos was fighting, screaming, crying, trying to live. He didn't want to die there on that prison yard. And then there was a moment where I realized, and I guess John realized at the same moment, that Ramos wasn't dying as he should. He'd been stabbed 10 times in the chest. It became clear that he had made himself an improvised stab vest. He had taken soft-backed books and sewn them into the inside of his jacket so that if he were stabbed, the knife would not penetrate very far. John started trying to take off Ramos's jacket. However, the cops were coming. There's only going to be another 30, maybe 45 seconds before the officers were there. They were running as fast as they could, batons in hand, screaming. The gunner was firing his block gun. And there's a moment that stands out like a freeze frame that sometimes I see whenever I close my eyes, of John taking the zipper and pulling off Ramos's jacket to get at his heart and his lungs to kill him. There's something about the duality of taking off somebody's clothes, generally a very intimate and private action, in public with a knife in hand and blood on your hands as the guy's crying and screaming and fighting to live because he doesn't want to die there on that prison yard. Savage kept him pinned down, and John stabbed him 4, maybe 5 times, right around the heart before the cops got there. Ramos went still. The cops took control of the scene, handcuffed up John and Savage, and Ramos was put onto the helicopter and taken to the hospital. I believe I watched that man die right there. It's possible he lived. We weren't told one way or the other, but I saw him get stabbed in what I believe was his heart. The thing that stands out to me about this is Savage with his knee upon Ramos's chest. In prison, you don't trust other men. You don't tell somebody something like, I'm planning on leaving the gang, because they might kill you over it. For Ramos to have trusted Savage, they must have been close. He must have loved that man. They must have been like brothers. And that was likely the last thing that Ramos saw, was Savage leaning over him, a knee on his chest as John was executing him. If you're in a gang, my first piece of advice to you is leave the gang. It's not a good place. These people are not your friends. My second piece of advice to you is do not trust the other members of the gang. Don't think they're your friend first and members of the gang second. If you elect to trust them, it's just possible that the man you trust will be the man whose knee is on your chest whenever the gang decides that they're done with you.